Blow, blow, blow till I hear the breath of the Spirit flowing in me.
Hello, welcome to Spirit of Life. I'm David McLauchlan, and my guest this week is Mark Bateman from Chaplaincy Australia. Welcome to the program, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, David.
First of all, Mark, tell us a bit about your own faith background and journey and how you became part of Chaplaincy Australia.
Okay. My story goes back. I grew up in a Christian home. My mum and dad were missionaries on a Aboriginal reserve to our Indigenous Australians. And for the first 16 years of my life, I pretty much grew up out back on this reserve. Absolutely loved my growing up years. As a child, took on all the understanding of what my parents taught me as far as Christian belief goes. But what was interesting for me, my father took ill and we moved to Adelaide. And whilst in Adelaide, the local church that we were attending was in a construction program. And during the construction phase, I put a lot of effort into, it's a bit of the Aussie outback way of doing things. If there's a job to do, just jump on in and get it done. And I spent a lot of time involved in that, sort of getting tasks around the construction site done. But toward the end of the 10 months, and I sort of did every night and most Saturdays, and sort of felt that a pat on the shoulder was probably quite in order. But come on the opening day of the church activity, it was kind of thank you to a bloke who got paid to work on the site. And I thought, well, that stinks. Got quite wounded about that and decided, well, if that's Christianity, I can pass. But it's interesting, as a child growing up in Christianity, there's excellent principles that you get taught and things that you value and you treasure as far as proper expectation, brutality or fighting or, these sort of things they weren't part of my training or growing up years, so I didn't want to get involved in that. And so I tried to run away from God, and I should have read the Bible, because there were blokes in the Bible who tried to run away from God and it didn't work, and I should have learnt from their stories. But I married very young. My wife and I were 18 when we married, and we ran away to a place called Paraburdoo in Western Australia, thinking that it was very outback. So God's probably not out there, but we didn't last in Paraburdoo very long. There was around about 4,000 men out there and about 25 or 30 girls, and so there's a lot of guys were sort of playing for the girls, and as a newly married couple, I wasn't in for that, not with my wife, and so we moved away from that area after 6 months, and coming back into South Australia, my wife Barbie gave her heart back to Christ, but I was still hurting a lot over this construction issue, and decided, no, not interested, and started driving semi-trailers around Australia for the next 4 years, in my effort to try and, I suppose, outrun God. But he's a little bit bigger than what I thought he was, and didn't get to take into consideration that he's omnipresent. He's everywhere, and in the truck with me, and I'd drive down the road and, feeling hurt, and would cry out God, if you're real, I need to know in a way that I can understand, because if I know you're real, then I'd give my heart to you. I suppose I had a childlike belief, but it never really matured into an adult belief. And so I was very, what's in it for me at that time. While I was driving semis, I was coming back into Melbourne, coming back from Melbourne with a load of kiln cars, big steel frames that they put clay bricks on, roll them into a kiln on the tracks, and then roll them out and take them off as they're baked. I had 4 over my drive and 5 stacked over my triaxle. I'm coming down into Adelaide. I came down over the top, and as you do, it's a very dangerous section of road. You make sure your brakes are all working, and you do your first section, and you're got it in the right gear, and you're going down and just looking after everything. And got down past Eagle on Hill and did a little bit of another flat section before you start a second descent. And that second descent brings you down to a place called Devil's Elbow, of all names to be called. And coming down towards Devil's Elbow, I went for my brakes. Being that I was a lot lighter than what I would normally have been coming down with these steel kill cars on, I was sort of feeling what was the right gear, and I was one half gear too high. And the revs would run up a bit, and you'd use your exhaust brake, and you'd also then dab your foot brake just to keep it under control. But you wouldn't try and downshift again because being that they're all locked gearboxes, they're non-synchro, you couldn't dare take it out without risking not getting it in the lower gear. So we just put up with it, but I came down to a section that got quite steep as it comes towards Devil's Elbow, went for my brake pedal, and I had no brakes. And it's one of those things where I just can't believe this, and you're pumping and pumping, and nothing seems to be happening. And there was 3 brake systems on the truck. One was your foot brake, one was an emergency braking system, and I yanked the lever down for that, and nothing happened. And one is a parking brake system, and I hit the park brake, which is a button on the dashboard, and nothing happened again. And here I am now, way too fast going down this hill. The vehicle is supposed to run at around about 2,200 RPM, and now it's running at 3,200 RPM, and the engine's screaming, and I've got my lights on, I've got the horns blowing, and coming down towards Devil's Elbow, and I realise I'm going to die. I'm conscious of that. Many a truckie had died on this corner. The vehicle would just roll over and slide into the cliff, and the driver would be crushed in the cab, or he'd try and tackle, scraping up against the concrete, the cliff wall, but that would just drag the vehicle back into the cliff and again crush the driver.
And you actually had time to think about this?
It's amazing how people say that your life flashes before you, and it does. It's like I can think back over it now, and it just looks like it slowed down so much. But while I'm conscious of this, my first cry that just comes out is, God, I don't want to die. My wife has flashed through my thoughts, and how much I love and I enjoy our relationship, but I'm just so conscious this is it. And that cry comes out, God, I don't want to die. And with that, on the back of the prime mover, one set of wheels locked up. It's absolutely mechanically impossible, because on the Kenworth that I was driving, the differential are all what they call fixed differentials. So whatever one wheel does through the fixed differentials and all the cogs in the gears, all wheels will do the same thing.
And that was enough to stop you? But
one wheel locked up, which the rest should have, but they didn't, and that's why it's impossible. And the vehicle started to slow down, and as it was slowing down, I could downshift and get the vehicle back into a safe gear. I got to Devil's Elbow, and rather than swing too wide, I actually took it tight so that my trailer would rub on the Armco railing and stop the vehicle. So here I am now, halfway around Devil's Elbow, and I've got the road all blocked off because it's just I'm not going to take the risk for the second part of that descent. The police come and they wanted to book me for dangerous driving, and I'm saying I had a brake failure, and they're pointing to the skid marks on the road saying, yeah, right. And then Adelaide Brake Service was called up to look at the vehicle, and they did a systematic check through the vehicle, and down around the triaxle, there's what's called the breakaway valve, and that breaks the air out to the triaxle trailer. But the air intake going into that from the prime mover through the coupling down the trailer to this breakaway valve, that they had an O-ring had gone into the hole, and on the coupling back here, where the coupling hooks up, there this O-ring has frayed away from, broken, frayed away, gone down and every time you push the brake, it pushed the O-ring down further until eventually this is the time that it plugged the hole.
I'm sorry to have to interrupt you. We've got to go for a short break, so we'll continue the story after the break.
Okay, mate.
You're watching Spirit of Life. Join us again after the break.
Love.